Well, hello, and welcome to episode 174 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And Michaela, have you ever been put in a situation where you were given the top prize of something and had it ripped away from you? Because that's exactly what happened to La La Land.
It is. Man, I don't know. Were you watching the Oscars?
I
We,
did.
we were not
We were
watching
not.
them
We were not.
together at that
So
point.
this would have been the 2017 Oscars. So I was not watching that one live, but like everyone else in the whole world, watched. It's like watching like a car crash, right? Like you can't like avert your eyes from it when it
Right,
happened, and they announced La La Land is the big winner of the night, only to come back a few moments later and be like, just kidding about that. Sit back down, please. Calm down.
right. Yeah. Oh man. And poor Warren Beatty. I mean, that poor guy, like he's never going to be asked to read anything off of a piece of paper ever again. It was not his fault, by the way. He was confused, but it was not his fault. It was PwC, who I know pretty well from a consulting perspective. I don't know, three people got fired for that whole thing because
Hmm.
they got the wrong envelope to the wrong person and they didn't know what they were doing. But I will say, part of me was happy and part of me was let down. When that whole thing went out because and we're going to talk about it here because La La Land, it really was going to be when they did the marketing spiel, and you saw the previews and the different interviews, and everybody thought that this was going to be the musical that brought back the musicals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it did that to definitely an extent. And it's definitely made its way into a lot of people's hearts as like their favorite kind of modern musical of all time. Um,
Hmm.
and so that's really cool. Even if it didn't win Best Picture.
Even if it didn't win Best Picture, it did win a lot of things and it won its way into the heart of a lot of people. So let's do this, Michaela. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. We're going to whip up something that's, Los Angeles-y, Hollywood-y. It's going to be delicious. It's going to be perfect for your parties. You can sing and dance and talk about love and love loss. So let's do that. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back to whip up this week's cocktail.
So Brian, Los Angeles is in the middle of the desert. I mean, it's kind of on the side, right? Like, but it's got this desert motif for
It's like
sure, right?
it's
And we've been
it's very
spending
it's very desert and also ocean adjacent.
yes, yeah, which is great. So when we were looking to create this cocktail and I was looking at inspiration, I was like, I want something that is very old Hollywood. I want something that is very like classic, but also like a piece of the city that we like got has some grittiness to it. I don't know. I found this cocktail and I think that it does all of those things and more. And it is called the La La Land Champagne from Falstaff. And it's got quite a few ingredients. It's really easy to put together, but it's got a bunch of stuff. And so at first I was a little, I was like, I don't know. And I'm traveling. So I was like, am I going to be able to find all these things? But I think for most people, this is going to be a pretty easy cocktail to make too. And it's very beautiful.
It is very beautiful. Yeah, and it is quite a few ingredients, but they're relatively easy to come by. Even your liqueur 43 is something that's easy to find and not too expensive. And this is a punch, Michaela, which is always good. If you're a Hollywood shindigs, so you have one in the lobby while you're getting ready to go in and watch your musical, maybe. But this is going to be perfect for your La La Land party, for your Hollywood party. This would be really good. We should probably put a pin in this one for Oscars this coming year. Maybe we can do this for Oscar nights. That would be exciting too. So go ahead and grab yourself a punch bowl. Go ahead and throw a little bit of ice in there. And then these are going to be your ingredients and the amounts for a punch. And then I'm going to break it down into just a single cocktail because I didn't want to make a whole punch for myself. So into that goes 500 milliliters of vodka, 700 milliliters of champagne, 300 milliliters of liqueur 43, 300 milliliters of fresh lime juice, 500 milliliters of passion fruit juice, 500 milliliters of ginger beer, and some fresh mint. Go ahead and put that in there. Stir it up, not too vigorously. You want to keep those bubbles from the champagne and the ginger beer. They're going to keep going throughout. And then ladle that into a cup with some ice. You can garnish it with a fresh sprig of mint or maybe a slice of passion fruit if you got any of those on hand. Sip and enjoy. So that is a lot of ingredients, as we said. Michaela, go to the website, drinkthemovies.com. I'm going to have them listed out there for you and also a link to the Falstaff article as well. But Michaela, this came together pretty easy. Pretty delicious, pretty beautiful because I have to admit something. I don't really like champagne cocktails all that much, but this one was really good.
Oh, I did not know that. Well, I have to tell you, I'm not a huge fan of passion fruit. I think it's way too sweet usually. So I also was pleasantly surprised by this because the ginger beer really offsets the sweetness to me. And if you get passion fruit juice, make sure you get good passion fruit juice. I would even so far as if you can find like passion fruit, like something that looks like puree. It doesn't have to be puree because that would make the mouth feel weird, but you want something that is as passion fruity 100% as possible. There's a lot of stuff that uses passion fruit in it, and I think that would be too sweet. This is amazing. The Liquor 43, if anybody doesn't know, it's one of my favorite liqueurs because it's like 43 different types of vanilla. It's got this really rich like taste without being like syrupy. I think it's
Mhm.
beautiful. I use it a lot with some of my cocktails at home. This has everything that I love in it. And it's so different with the passion fruit piece. You could also use something like mango if you wanted. You could use prickly pear juice if you wanted. That would add a completely different kind of profile. But I thought that this was really, really lovely and well balanced. I love a champagne cocktail because usually if you're going to add things to it, it's going to be a lower ABV. This is not the case because we're adding a bunch of liqueur and vodka, but I like a champagne cocktail and I think this is one of the better ones that we've done.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely is one of the better ones that we've done. And yeah, this was really easy to put together. Liquor 43, as you mentioned, Michaela, it's a lot of different vanilla kind of in there. It's a little bit honey. It's this beautiful kind of golden color. You open the cap and you just get like this waft of vanilla. It's really really delicious smelling and tasting. You bought this bottle for this cocktail, so go ahead and you can use some Liquor 43. You can jazz up a couple of things. Make yourself an espresso martini. Throw some Liquor 43 in there. Want to make a White Russian? Add some of that, or skip the Kahlua and just go with vanilla White Russian. That sounds pretty good too. Pretty good too. So get that bottle to use out there. Now, if you don't want to make a whole punch, which I did not because I was, the only one drinking it, although my wife ended up having one, so I ended up having to make two of these anyway. Should have just made the whole punch. But go ahead and into a glass with some ice, put in your 1.5 ounces of vodka, 3/4 of an ounce of liqueur 43, 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice, and 1.5 ounces of that passion fruit juice. Stir that around with your ice, and then top it up with about I don't know 1.5 ounces or so of ginger beer and 2 ounces roughly of the champagne. Just kind of top it off there, and yeah, it gets effervescent. The fieriness of the ginger really kind of cuts through that passion fruit and makes this perfect blend. And this was a really really good one, which makes sense because La La Land is a really good movie. Almost won Best Picture. So I don't know. As far as champagne cocktails go, this is one of my favorite. It's definitely one of my favorites that we've ever done, and it's probably one of my favorites that I've ever had because it seemed a little bit more complex than something even like a French 75, which just tastes like a boozed up version of champagne to me. But uh, any other final thoughts on this one, Michaela?
No, drink it. Get the ingredients.
Drink
I know
it.
it sounds like a lot on this podcast. It sounds like a lot. You probably have half the ingredients in your cabinet. Get the other half. Drink it. You will not regret getting a bottle of liquor 43. I will say that right now. Yeah, so do it. Do it, drink it. This one's a really good one. And it's perfect for summer as I mean, it feels like everywhere we are, we're in the middle of the desert. And we will be in the middle of the desert when we go visit LA. So I can't wait to actually like find this in LA and drink it and take a picture of us drinking it and share it with our viewers
Mm.
because it's perfect. It's a perfect LA drink.
There you go. Absolutely. So now that we've got that mixed up, let's grab the punch bowl. We'll get another one of these going and we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back to chat about this week's film, La La Land.
Because when you get this,
If I get this.
when you get this, you gotta give it everything you got. Everything. It's your dream.
What are you gonna do?
I gotta follow my own plan, stay here. get my own thing going. You're gonna be in Paris. Good jazz there. And you love jazz now, right?
Yes.
I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see.
Spoiler warning for La La Land. If you've not yet seen this film, you have a little bit of time. You have a pause button. You have time to go get the 6 ingredients that make up the La La Land champagne drink. And you should do that because it's really good. But what you should do if you don't want to be spoiled is press pause, go watch the movie, because we're going to talk about all the things, especially the ending, which, spoiler warning, it's, a bit of a twist. A bit of a twist. It's a relationship twist, as they all are. So you've been warned. And that is my spoiler warning for La La Land.
It is a bit of a twist. It's a bit of a Wayne's World ending. We'll talk about that when we get there. So, as you mentioned, Michaela, this you've had a couple of years to watch this. This was released in 2016. It was written and directed by Damien Chazelle, who is just coming off of writing and directing Whiplash just a couple of years before that. Also widely acclaimed there. This one stars, of course, Emma Stone as our aspiring actress Mia, and Ryan Gosling is playing our aspiring jazz club owner Sebastian. Michaela, this was nominated for 14 Academy Awards, which was a lot. It won 7 of those. No, strike that. It won 6 of those. It was nominated for sound editing, sound mixing, costume design, film editing, original screenplay, actor in a leading role for Ryan Gosling, original song for Audition, The Fool's Who Dream, and Best Picture. It did not win Best Picture prior to popular belief. It did not. It did not. Moonlight won that year to fight the snafu there. So, but it did win. It won, 6 Academy Awards. That's still pretty good. So it won Best Original Song. Get 2 nominations. You're probably going to win one of those. It did. City of Stars that Ryan Gosling sings in the film there. Won Production Design, Best Original Score, Best Director, and the Best Actress in a Leading Role for Emma Stone.
Yeah, all the things. Now, we've seen this before. And when I say we've seen this before, we've seen Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone before. We'd seen them twice before this movie came about.
We've even talked about them before.
We've even talked about them before. That's right. They did Crazy Stupid Love in 2011, and we covered that in the podcast. That was the first time we did a old fashioned, I believe, and it was amazing. We did not cover them in Gangster Squad, and that's probably a good move. But they were in it. They were in it together, and their chemistry was smoking even then, and that was in 2013. So this is a 2016 kind of bringing them back for yet another shot at love with very different characters, very different scenes, a very different feel in a full-on musical. I don't know what your experience was with this, but I remember seeing the preview for the first time and thinking that this film was going to completely break me. I love a musical. I love Emma Stone. I have been a fan of hers since she did this reality show where they were remaking The Partridge Family, and she was auditioning, and she sang Meredith Brooks's Bitch. I thought she was amazing then. She was 16. It was amazing. So I have been watching her for a very long time, and I love her chemistry with Ryan Gosling. He is a darling to me. He's really, I think he was really underrated because he was such a good looking guy, but he has proven himself time and time again as an actor. So I was super excited to see this come out.
Yeah, absolutely. And, nominated for the Academy Award there for Ryan Gosling, who is excellent in the film. Emma Stone, obviously excellent in the film as the winner of the Academy Award there as well. And we'll probably talk a little bit more about those awards as we go on through this. So let's get into the movie a little bit here. Michaela, as you mentioned, this is a musical. It opens up on a musical number, which is pretty fun. It's a song about being stuck in traffic in Los Angeles, as you do, I guess. That's the yeah, one of the things people think about Los Angeles, right? You think about movie stars, you think about fancy restaurants, and you think about traffic, and that's where we're thrust into there. You get a beautiful kind kind of musical number on this freeway. It's all done in one single shot, which is amazing. I don't know how many times they had to do this one single shot to get it done, but it is pretty impressive bit of movie making there. And we're thrust into La La Land has the old Hollywood title come up for it. What do you think about this original musical number before it pulls back and we're introduced to our characters?
So it is a spectacle. It is an amazing feat of movie making, this part of the film. It was really important to the director to shoot as many musical numbers as possible in one shot. This had like 300 extras singing, singers and dancers. They closed down a piece of the highway. There's this whole like story about how they created this. I think it achieved some amazing kind of foundational work within the viewer's experience and sets them up for the journey that you're going to be on. All that being said, I saw this and I viscerally did not like it. And I will tell you why. For the one reason, I don't think the sound mixing of this song is as good as it could be. I think what they wanted to do was go through and have kind of this, I'm kind of less Hollywood-esque experience where they're actually singing while they're dancing and everything, rather than have it be an overlay that they lip sync to. Unfortunately, what ends up happening to me is that I don't get enough of the singing voices. It's toned down a little bit. And so I hear a lot of like the orchestra, which is great. I hear a lot of like the rustling and the tapping of the feet, which is also great, but I wanted more vocals. I wanted louder vocals. It seems like she's almost like at the beginning when she's like, I think about that day. And it's like she's whisper singing and it drove me nuts. If they could have just changed that, I mean, that is the only thing, but it is so distracting to me as a viewer. I didn't love it, but I loved everything else about it. And I was really worried that it was going to be like that for the rest of the movie. That's how distracting it was to me. So that's a bit of something that if I could critique it, that's what I would say.
Jeez,
now tell me how wrong I am.
Michaela's coming out after the 14 Academy Awards. Now, in fairness, it did not win the Oscar for sound mixing, but I totally agree with you because it is hard to hear those voices in there. But for me, you know, the song is less about the song. I don't even care what they're saying because you're just watching it. It is a visual spectacle. It is going through there, all of these moving pieces all coming together. The colors are bright and vibrant and contrasty. It's very simple. It was it was nominated for costume design and rightfully so because the costumes by and large are not that I don't know. I not to take it away from the costuming department, but they're not like these big, like elaborate gowns as much as they are just, you know, these very simple, like iconic lines and iconic colors that you think of when you think about classic Hollywood. And all of those things are on full display here as we're going through our first musical number. As the musical number ends, it pulls back. It seems like you know, these two that were, you know, one car length behind this musical number could have got out and sang and danced too, but that's okay because one of them is reading lines. That is Mia. She is in her car. She's on the phone. You don't know that she's reading lines. You think she's just having a conversation on there. And like a lot of people do, they get on their phone. They're not paying attention when traffic starts back up and the person behind her gets a little aggravated at that, pulls up around, honks the horn, which becomes kind of a recurring thing in the film. You know, gives her a look. She gives him middle finger. And I love it. It's my favorite line in the whole movie is because Emma Stone, you know, Mia turns and looks and she's like, man, what a jerk. And she's like, oh, I guess I should go.
Yep. Oh, I should go. Because she takes another like 20 seconds of like looking at her script and you don't know what she's doing. And inside, even look, I've never lived in LA, but even I was like, come on, lady, like, put your foot on the gas. Anyway, and then she's like, oh, I should go. And it's that kind of not self-absorbedness, but maybe a little bit that I think is you know, kind of faulting in the business. But we immediately go from there to kind of a day in the life of Mia, right? It is winter. Barista. It's winter in LA, which means it's the same as summer in LA. Everything is pretty. I mean, there are some leaves that have fallen, I guess. But we see her interact with this very famous faceless actress that we don't know. This woman, you know, orders coffee. She's like completely starstruck. She works on a studio, like in the coffee shop that's on in like a Warner Brothers studio or something. So that's really cool. She probably should get used to seeing stars all day because she works at a coffee shop in a movie studio, but I digress. Anyway, it shows we immediately fall in love with her like kind of rosy glasses, like kind of view on things and this naivety that she has. And she realizes she's late for an audition. She gets covered in coffee. She shows up. I love the scene because she gets covered in coffee, and like the next scene is of her in a parka. Like she's got this big coat on, trying to say the lines. And this part really hit me on a very visceral level because she's saying her lines, and the shot is really beautifully done where you see that behind her someone is looking through the window that's like, hey, do you want to go get pizza, you want to go get lunch? And totally interrupting her space, and the people that are watching her are not paying attention to her at all, and she can sort of feel it, and she definitely feels it at the end when they say, they kind of stop right in the middle of her monologue and then don't even acknowledge her. It's really tough. And that's what it is, right? When you're an aspiring actress, that happens a lot, and you've got to develop a really thick skin. So it's tough for her because she's hurt about it, because she's really trying. She has these big dreams. She comes home to this really amazingly decorated apartment with her roommates, and she's just like, oh, I'm not doing anything. And of course they're like, girlfriend, we're going to a party tonight. You're not doing nothing. Get up, put on this amazingly gorgeous blue dress and match the rainbow that we've got going on. And we're going to do this musical number around anybody in the crowd. This could be the moment. This could be the time you're discovered. Like, get up off that bed.
Yeah, get up and get after it. Yeah, it does a really good job of kind of painting, I guess, the reality of being an aspiring actress in Hollywood here. And yeah, it's really great scene. She's on the verge of tears when they like cut her off there, like in there. Incredible stuff there going on for sure. And yeah, she goes home, gets coaxed out of the house to go to this party, and they sing and dance their way down the street. I love, you think they're just gonna like wander off like into the distance, but then they just stop at her Toyota Prius and get into there, which is pretty good. And they're off to this party, which seems like kind of a good time. They do like this little like montage of like pouring champagne, and then like random guys like coming up to try to talk to her and stuff like that. And the party ends with no further progress on the career. She is walking home because the car gets towed. Of course, she has trouble with her car throughout this thing, keep track of it, but the car gets towed, so she ends up walking home. Now, I don't know where their apartment was. I don't know where this party was, but it seems like that would be a long walk wherever it was. She's walking home and stumbles into she hears some music coming from this jazz club. It's a really cool kind of scene. She just like stops along this brick wall, and there's like these two neon bars kind of beside her, and it pulls back, and it's this little like cocktail lounge kind of thing, and the music draws her in. Changing point of view, though, Michaela, we are going back to that car. Who was driving the car? That was none other than Ryan Gosling playing Sebastian. He pulls up. He's annoyed. He gives her a look like, "What are you doing? Why are you blocking the traffic? Because I gotta go." And he gets home, gets a little bit of a shtick from his sister. We find out that he is an aspiring like jazz musician, but also wants to like preserve the legacy of jazz, and is really in a bit of an uproar because this jazz club has been turned into what is it? It's a samba and tapas restaurant, which he thinks is ridiculous. And everyone's like, what's a samba and tapas restaurant? Exactly is what he says. He's got a cool old stool that his sister keeps sitting on that apparently was owned by some jazz legend, and he wants to go and bring jazz back to the world. But that's not what he's doing right now. What he's doing right now is playing some Christmas jams at the restaurant, who is helmed by none other than
J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons, who is the the proprietor of this bar, who's amazing. J.K. Simmons is amazing in everything. He is amazing in this one, even when he's firing Ryan Gosling, even when he's firing Sebastian for not playing enough Christmas songs.
That's right. I really love this banter between the two of them because they can tell that they like each other. Like the J.K. Simmons character is like, dude, you're so good, but like, you got to play the set list. And he's like, really? Like, I think you mean like, I'll play one that I want to play, and then I'll play one from your list. And he's like, no, absolutely not. You're playing the entire list or you're fired. And he says he agrees, but then he goes in and starts doing this jazz riff, and it's beautiful. But it really makes J.K. Simmons mad, and he's like, "Nah, you're done. You need to leave." And it's right at that moment where we see this connection either build or not, depending on where we are in the movie. Spoiler warning. Because she walks up to him to say, "Hey, I just heard you play," and she's about to say, "You were incredible and this is awesome," but he like totally like I don't bumps into her and into her shoulder as a way to like get her to move, and walks out, and she's like like what the heck. It's really it's not great. It's not great. It's not a good look. She's had the worst day. He's had the worst day. They both have had really bad days. And this is why this was the moment in the audience where, seeing it the second time and knowing what happens, I was like, this is the moment where it's like, you don't know what's going on and you could just be kind. And what would have happened if in that moment he hadn't done that, right? Like what would have happened? It's a really interesting thought for me. But
What would have
time goes
happened?
on.
You give a very presumptive kiss. Probably my second favorite line in the movie here is Ryan Gosling is talking to Bill, J.K. Simmons' character there, and he's like you're fired. I told you to play the set list. I gotta fire you. And Sebastian says, "But it's Christmas." And to which Bill says, "I know, I can see all the lights." So I like that too. So yeah, so they're both off on their way. That basically is the end of our winter section here. And we're getting into our spring section, and it's going to bring these two back together when Mia ends up at another party, and there is a pretty rad band playing there, playing some 80s tunes, playing Take on Me, which is one of the best songs of all time. I'm 100% sure of it, but you go up there and you get to see Ryan Gosling playing a guitar. And who doesn't love that?
Oh yeah, he doesn't love it. Apparently, he said Sebastian is really embarrassed, and it's amazing. Again, the chemistry between these two, because it's almost like Mia knows that he's embarrassed, right? And so the band leader, who looks like, I don't know, Richard Simmons, is that a person? Richard Simmons, he's the
Richard Simmons is a
jazzercise guy,
person. Yeah.
right? He's like in that, tracksuit, and he's got this big hair, and he's like, "Hey, does anybody want any requests?" And she doesn't skip a beat. She's like, "Take I want to hear I ran." So Sebastian is like, "I hate you so much," and she starts kind of dancing around and making eye contact, and again, it's almost like they're immediately best friends. And that is what's so special about this film, I think, is because the chemistry wouldn't have been I don't think this would have worked in the way that it does with them, because the next time they see each other is a little bit later. She's looking for her car. There are 3,457 Priuses that they have to like walk down to find. And they end up having this really beautiful like musical number where they lament wasting a lovely night together when they could have been spending it with somebody else, despite the fact that they both are insanely charismatic together, and the chemistry is palpable between them. And it's palpable in a way that is not just like adult, if you know what I'm saying. It's very like wholesome and like pure, and they are dancing around together. They are singing together. The music is fixed. I can actually hear them singing. It's amazing. This was the musical number that changed everything for me watching this, personally.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of the next big musical number. I guess she has the one there with her roommates, but then this is kind of the next one, and it sets
Yep.
up really well as they're walking off to find her car, and they kind of sit on this bench, and you see Mia changing out of her heels and into like these tap shoes that Sebastian wears pretty much throughout the film, right? She changes into kind of his identical shoes, and they do kind of this dance and tap number there in front of the Hollywood Hills. It's pretty beautiful, and if you see like an image of La La Land, it's probably the two of them dancing throughout this. Mandy Moore did the choreography
Choreography.
for the film. They're very famous choreographer. There has done a bunch of stuff, and yeah, this dance is great, and it kind of starts to cement the fact that just despite the two previous or the one previous, yeah, I guess the two previous meetings of these two, they were there was no love loss between them. Now suddenly they are building a very quick relationship, and going to run into each other again because she mentions that she works on the Warner Brothers lot there at the coffee shop. She's a barista right? They have a little bit of a jab back and forth about that, about he's playing in a cover band, so what does he know? And she's a barista, so what does she know? But he's going to I don't know, be tempted, I guess, be lured there to that coffee shop. He says to hide from security on the lot, but really it's of course to see Mia. And they go and they have a bit of a wander through the Warner Brothers lot, which I assume is one of Michaela's favorite parts of the movie. There, you're getting to see movies made. She's pointing out all of these things, and it's but she's going to be busted, right? As all of us movie buffs do every once in a while. One has slipped through the cracks. So Rebel Without a Cause, she quotes it out there as being this inspiration for a thing, but she gets caught out in a lie because she's never seen it. Also, I've never seen it.
Also, I've never seen it. And Sebastian doesn't believe her. He's like, what do you mean? Oh my gosh. And then he's like, it's playing at like 10 o'clock at night at this theater in the middle of LA. It's like this old timey theater. And it's amazing, this moment. I just want to say this moment just melted me as a viewer and as a girl in general, who believes in romance and love, because he wants to ask her out. But he does know that she's kind of seeing someone because she's been on the phone with some guy named Greg. And so, he'd asked about her, relationship, and she's like, I've been dating this guy for like a month. It's, pretty early. And he's like, okay, cool. But then he's like, hey, I mean, there's this movie. I could take you. I could meet you. And she's like, absolutely. And then later she finds out that she had totally forgotten about some really hoity-toity dinner date with her boyfriend. And you can see the level of like unexcitement she has about this, where she's like, oh yeah, oh, I got that thing with you. And you just know, like, her heart is already gone. It already is sitting in Sebastian's back pocket. He doesn't know it yet. He's wearing like a suit to this theater, which I think is so cute. You don't know if he's like gotten off of a gig or if he like just is dressed up really nice for her. So she ends up going to this date. They might as well be talking about Greek mythology, Roman Empire, or taxes, because she's not interested in anything they have to say. And then she basically like gets up and leaves that date to go storm this theater. And it's just an amazing moment. Turns into like the best date that you could ever ask for, right? They're watching the movie, they kind of want to have a kiss, but then like the projector malfunctions, and like I'm surprised the whole thing doesn't set on fire. But they kind of spend the rest of the evening together, kind of talking. And I love the next scene where they go to the Griffith Observatory and literally it feels like they're dancing amongst all the stars. It's very, there's allegory after allegory here, but I really feel like this was something that made it feel like a musical of the 1950s. Like we were back watching Brigadoon, right? Where things were not as they seem. You're in LA and you're in a city and the time is now, but you're also in this really beautiful mythical place together because of the one that you're with.
Yeah, for sure. You missed the best part of the whole movie, the most romantic part of the whole movie. I've been there, maybe you've been there. Hopefully everyone in the audience has been there. You're sitting in the theater next to someone that you're really into, and you keep inching those hands together and just hope that you can hold hands. And the hands do interlock, and that's when the whole theater burns down basically because that film reel catches on fire. As soon as they touch, it's just too much for the theater to handle. But that's the most romantic part of the whole movie is when they hold hands. It's beautiful. It's really really great. Yeah, they go to the Griffith Observatory, where this turns into a tale of love and whimsy, into a tale of crime. Because the observatory closes at 10 p.m. How did they get in there? Criminal masterminds, these two, but they go in, they're wandering around, and they do this beautiful dance number, and I love it, and I love that it's on like these stars, and then it goes into like this whole thing. It looks like the floor should have been covered in just like a tenth of an inch of water. That would have been cool. But they do break like the fourth wall when like this what is it? It's like a handkerchief or something like floats up, and they kind of both look at the camera. I don't love that, to be honest.
Yeah.
They could have just floated off. I think would have been really cool. Would have been really cool is their relationship in this town gets a little bit more magical as we're going through, and they do the dance number at the Griffith Observatory. And that is kind of the end there of our spring spring section. We're getting into the summer section now. So relationship, I guess, is kind of ongoing now at this point, right? So they've met, they've fallen in love, and they start to explore the hopes and dreams of each other, right? Sebastian is talking about how much he loves jazz, why he loves jazz. Mia rightly says that I don't like jazz. I don't understand jazz. That's what they play on elevators, and that's what you put on like in the background of parties because everyone can talk over it and no one cares. And he's very offended by this, but it's his job, as the proprietor of jazz, and wanting to start up this jazz club to show her why he loves it, and conversely, it's up to her then to show him why she wants to be an actress, and they keep kind of challenging each other in this way. But it's going to take a bit of a fateful turn because when Mia is learning all about jazz from Sebastian in this club, he has a bit of a run-in with an old friend, I guess, an old
Frenemy, maybe.
acquaintance.
Yeah.
An acquaintance. That's John Legend. That seems like a good acquaintance to have.
And his name's Keith, right? And he seems like a genuinely good guy. He's like, hey man, we need a keys player. We need somebody to play the keyboard or the piano. Do you want to jump on board? And at first he's like, nah, man, I'm not. He shoots him down in not a rude way, but just very curt. Like, nah.
Mhm.
And Mia doesn't quite understand it.
Doesn't give it a
And we
second thought at
never,
all.
yeah, and we never really understand what happened, but he's pretty successful, this guy, right? Keith has a band, he's traveling, he's not starving. Now he doesn't have his own jazz club, but I mean, this seemed like a good plan from Mia's perspective. So she doesn't quite understand it. And she goes so far as to kind of explain things to her mom on a phone conversation that Sebastian overhears, and he kind of makes the decision, hey, I should probably do this because I'll make a little money and maybe I can save some of it to start, working on the jazz club. His dream is really like very like vivid, right? He wants to do this one particular bar that used to be a jazz club, right? He wants to use, these things. He wants to have this stuff on the walls. He really wants, they like work on this
Wants to
insignia
have
together
chicken
and like the
skewers.
logo.
Yeah.
He wants to have chicken skewers. He wants to call it chicken on a stick. Good luck with that. I mean, that would be a cool name for a club. Anyway, he's got all these ideas. He goes ahead and he meets up with Keith and their people, and it's a legitimate job, right? Now they're not playing amazing stuff. They're not playing like real jazz. They're playing kind of this fusion stuff with like a machine that mashes things up and kind of like it's an Ed Sheeran thing, only if they were using their fingers and not their feet to like replay licks and things from guitars and stuff. So it's very new age, but it's not altogether bad, is it?
It's not altogether bad, and I think kind of the big message or the big takeaway for me of this film and John Legend, Keith says it there, after kind of the first this little practice, right? He's made the offer to Sebastian, then come in. He's going to get paid like $1,000 per week plus a cut of like the gigs and the merchandise, which sounds like a pretty good deal, right? You go from making nothing to making that. That's a pretty good deal. And I guess part of that is to examine like what is like selling out your art is. But Keith is talking to him, and he's like, you want to preserve jazz, but the world has moved on, and you're talking about all these jazz musicians, and they came on and they were like firebrands and they changed the world, right? And you're just trying to preserve their world. You're not trying to change the world. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what, we're trying to do here in Hollywood. And I think that, a big part of this is obviously a love letter to, Hollywood, to Los Angeles, which we'll dive into that a little bit more as we get through the rest of the film. But for me, part of the film then was almost like a in like memoriam, right? It's turning the page on what Hollywood, could be, should be, in the way that you think about, classic Hollywood versus modern Hollywood, and it's kind of summed up there in Keith's mind. But that's going to start kind of the ball rolling on this path that's going to take a bit of the shine off of the relationship here between Mia and Sebastian.
Yeah. It's really hard because I think one of the things you're watching is their love for each other and their absolute fervent belief in each other. And I think that's really, again, it's a romantic piece, but it's also so much more than just romance. Like you can tell that they have this deep love for each other that is visceral and real, but they believe in each other's talents so much it is really difficult because Mia is trying to, she's tired of auditioning. She decides she's going to create this one woman show. She's going to write it. So she's spending a lot of time selling things and coming up with money to put together like a spot within a theater and write things and rehearse things. And it's a one-person show and no one really understands it. But Sebastian is like, it's going to be amazing. You are so good. It's going to be awesome. And she's like, look, I think it's awesome that you're doing this band and, you know, everybody loves it. Like she goes to see it and she sees all these girls are like flinging themselves at the whole band, right? They're like, this is so great. And it happens so realistically. I feel like Sebastian is on this tour. He's never home. And then he comes home to surprise her. He makes this dinner for her. It's supposed to be like this really beautiful night. He's like, I got a flight or I got to leave at like 6 a.m. tomorrow, but I've got, 8 hours to spend with you. And he tries to make it special. And it starts off as this really romantic thing. Right. And then they talk over dinner and they end up having this argument that almost completely breaks their relationship. Right. And I find, as someone who's been through a lot of relationships in my life, that sometimes this is exactly how it happens, where it starts off great in the evening and then you go down a rabbit hole of dialogue with each other and you both end up saying things that while might be true are also cruel. And they both kind of, because they believe in each other and they want to challenge each other, sometimes it ends up being incredibly hurtful.
Yeah, there's just a bit of a, if things are off kilter, right, between kind of the characters, kind of their ambitions, and kind of their current state, right? Mia wants to be this famous actress, but she's been busy kind of writing this play in an attempt to be an actress. Whereas you have Sebastian who wants to open this jazz club and preserve jazz, who has taken this job that's sending him on the road away from Mia, away from her hopes and dreams, away from his own hopes and dreams, with the intention of one day coming back. And how do you kind of reconcile those things in the moment, right? And that's kind of what the fast forward of the 5 years is going to be. So basically, Mia, she rents out this theater, right, that they had their first date in. It is closed. It's the only kind of venue that she can find to do her performance, her one woman play there. And Sebastian is meant to go to this even after the fiery dinner there, literally fiery, because it sets off the smoke alarm as these burnt dinner as they're kind of in the passion of this argument that they're having there at the table. But bad news, you have a band photo shoot. It seems like Keith was a pretty good dude. Should have just told Keith, like, I gotta go, dude. I can't do this. Sorry about that. So misses the play, and that's going to be kind of the final straw. Mia is up in arms. She has had it with Los Angeles. She has had it with being an actress, and she is going home to Boulder City, Nevada, back to her parents' house where she's going to go and rethink her life. But a fateful call comes. I guess someone was in the audience that night, calls into the apartment there. Sebastian answers, you don't get any sort of indication of who it is because you're only hearing kind of his side of the conversation. But when he turns up, the next day or whatever, in Boulder City, Nevada, there at her house, laying on his horn, she runs out and he tells her about this casting agent that was at her performance and wants her to come in to do a reading. Mia fights back a little bit, but next morning comes out with coffee when Sebastian is there, ready to drive her back to Los Angeles.
And that's what you do for people you love, right? Again, this whole thing is so beautiful in terms of just their friendship for one another and they're showing up for one another. Like he didn't show up for her play, right? That's not okay. But he remembered. I mean, she was like, "How did you even find my house?" And she had told him the story about how she had an aunt who took her to this library that was across from her little town. And so he I just feel it in my bones. It's in a different state. So, he's like, you're going to do this. You're going to go back and it's going to be great. I believe in you. It's going to be awesome. Just, I'm coming back to get you tomorrow morning. And he does. And then she goes and does this audition. And this is a very different audition than what she had experienced at the beginning of the film, right? She goes in, she's like, what do you want me to read? I feel completely unprepared. And they're like, oh, well, we're building the character around you. So we don't really know anything. Could you just tell us a story? And she immediately goes into this beautiful story about her aunt and who lived in Paris. And it's this beautiful song about being this stage actress who, the crowd loved her and she had this deep love, and she died, but she wouldn't have changed her life at all. And it inspired Mia to chase her own dreams. And it's this really, you said this was like a in memoriam almost, and it kind of felt like that in this piece, where everything's turning, where in order to move on, in order to change the world further, you're going to have to let go of some of the past. I thought that was really beautifully done. Her voice is stunning. I mean, Emma Stone can really sing, and she can really act. She can dance now. She's a triple threat, and this scene was just really beautifully done.
Yeah, absolutely. It is beautiful. She's given that monologue, and then kind of afterwards they have kind of their final moment together, right? There and Sebastian is telling her, how proud she is, and she's definitely going to get it, and she should devote her life to acting now for sure. And she basically tells him he should, devote his life to doing the things that he loved now. Presumably has a little bit of money, and maybe that's going to be it. And we don't know that it's their final confrontation, because we're going back to winter. It is 5 years later. We see Mia kind of doing the same thing. It's all come full circle, right? She's walking into that cafe there on the Warner Brothers lot. She orders her coffee, and they offer to give it to her on the house, and she of course pays for it and walks out, goes home to her husband, who is not Sebastian. Womp womp. There has a kid. A lot of things have happened in 5 years, but they are going out on a date. They leave the kid at home with the babysitter, and they are off to dinner. But a bit of bad traffic leads them to a nightclub that we're not super familiar with until they walk in, and we see that name, Sebs, with a little music note. There's the apostrophe, which is pretty cool. Michaela's going to start crying here any moment now, and she sees that sign. She knows who it is. She sits down. He comes out. They kind of have this one moment of eye contact, and he sits down and plays the piano, and we get to relive the whole movie again.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful montage, kind of depicting all of the various parts of their relationship that could have gone well along with their careers, right? So it starts off where what if he didn't brush her off at that club, right? What if he just kissed her? Which is not good. We're not saying that that's a good thing. But it's
Very
it
forward.
feels
Very forward.
It feels great because we know what they've actually done through the whole film. We know that they're not strangers, but in that moment they are actually strangers. So maybe don't do that. But the rest of it is this beautiful, like, just a look at what would have happened to both of them if both of their careers took off as well as their relationship thrived, right? What if everything went well with Mia's one woman show? What if everybody was there and he was there, and she got to do all these amazing things, and she got to be all these amazing characters, and his what would have happened if everything had gone well? Would they have had a child together? Would they have had a house together? Would they have, there are these just beautiful kind of montage moments where you get to see them as a couple that kind of grow up, right? And do all of these things and carve out this life together. And what if it's them that are going to dinner that end up finding themselves in a jazz club where they're sitting together, like really close together, his hands draped over her leg. It's a beautiful, intimate kind of moment that they're sharing at this club. And then you realize that, that was what could have been, what maybe should have been, but what wasn't. And it's such a sad ending. And of course, at this point I'm crying like a baby. I'm watching this. Brian is not, but it is very emotional, I will say, because it's they had said it before when they kind of have this conversation. They're like, what's going on with us, before she goes to Paris, right? Before she goes and takes that job, and she says, I'm always going to love you, and he says, I'm always going to love you too. But they kind of know that they're not going to make it, but they're always going to have that love because it is real and because it is pure. It is something that will always be. And it's not that they stopped loving each other. Their lives just put them in different directions in different ways. And Um, and they have that really beautiful moment where they're both looking at each other. She's completely overwhelmed. Her husband is clueless. He's like, do you want to listen to one more or do you want to go? And she's like, we should go. And but they kind of have this exchange, Sebastian and Mia, in that moment where they both kind of nod, and it's really beautiful and really sad. And yeah.
Yeah, that's true. We don't ever find out what happens with Sebastian in terms of his love life, but maybe his love was that jazz club, so maybe he got to find his ultimate love there too in the end. And yeah, that's kind of what we're left with. It was a relationship that was obviously, built on love, and said that they, would always love one another, but really it was a relationship too about being with someone and pushing them and helping them kind of realize their dreams too, which is maybe the magic of La La Land, of Los Angeles, of Hollywood there. And yeah, that's how it ends. I mentioned kind of earlier, very much, very much feels to me like a super happy ending from Wayne's World, right? When they do the ending, and then they change
Right.
the they change the ending to see how things would have played out differently there. You get some really cool shots though, kind of in the closing montage. It's kind of going through, and there's like a um it's like an art deco like version of like Paris, like in behind her apartment, and he's there, and they go and like kiss on the balcony. And there's a really great one of when she's at kind of that final audition that we see her at, but it's all like black and white like projector images of, and you can see him like sitting on the opposite side of the wall there, and stuff like that is really cool way to kind of wrap it up. And that's one of the big takeaways for me from La La Land. Obviously in a film that was heralded, had all of these Academy Award nominations, kind of the set design and focus on that stuff. Really, to me, is what's the most kind of spectacular about it. Save the chemistry between, Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling, because I don't know. I don't know how you think about this in just terms of the story, but um, their relationship, their love story is really propped up a lot, I think, by how like charismatic and how uh believable these two are as a couple. Like if you had anyone else on there that didn't have like this maximum intense level of chemistry, like I don't know that the love story would have come together as well, but it does because it's the two of them.
Agreed completely. I mean, this got Emma Stone her first Oscar, right? And I think Ryan Gosling was nominated. Was he? He was
Hmm.
nominated, wasn't he?
Yep.
This chemistry that they have is, again, it's palpable, but it's not this alluring. Like it's not based on like lust, right? Which we've seen plenty of that in the past too, right? They can pull that off for sure, but they have this pureness to them, and this, again, it's this belief in each other that is so transformational, and it's so special. And this, even when they're dancing together, it looks just effortless and beautiful. It's very much akin to like this Fred Astaire, you know, um, Ginger Rogers moment where they're not as good of dancers, but like that chemistry where they just kind of know each
Hmm.
other's soul in a really special way. And it's amazing to me, because this story is good. The story's good. It holds up well. The ending is so heart wrenching because of that chemistry and because of the
Hmm.
way in which they react to each other. And there's no words at the end, right? It's just him playing the piano and looking at her. So you're left as an audience member to fill in what those feelings and emotions are, and they do it so well. Apparently they're going to be making this into a stage play. I worry how they're going to do that,
Hmm.
because there's so much that you see up close in those closer shots that you're going to miss as a person viewing this in like a broad spectrum theater perspective, right? I worry about how they're going to really tell that story, because that to me is, um the ending is that piece where they both had to make big choices with their dreams, and they both chased their dreams, they both got what they wanted, but they
Hmm.
also are missing something. And they're both happy. Like you don't think for a second that he's still like thinking about her every night. I mean, there's at the beginning when we see this kind of break where it's 5 years later, he's meeting with people at the club, he's talking with people, he's living his life, he's
Living
got
his
his
life,
club,
yeah.
he's doing the thing that he wants to do, right? So it's not like he's like lamenting her. This is not a Notebook part two, right? This is not that situation. But it's still like this really beautiful kind of tribute to what happens as you with your first loves or your great loves of your life that don't make it, that don't make it to forever. They kind of make it to forever in a way because you still love them, but you're
Hmm.
not there with them anymore. And that the fact that she looked so proud too of like all that he had done. Like he was out, he did it. He went and killed it. And
Hmm.
he had to have known who she was. I mean, he was walking by posters of her with her
Poster, oh
face,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yep.
You know,
Yeah,
and
and it's
how cool.
and they do a really good job of, kind of illustrating Sebastian's character as someone who's um I don't know that I'd say like selfish necessarily, but definitely kind of like self-centered, thinks very highly of him just in the way that he's, speaking with Bill, his manager there, the way he
Mm-hmm.
speaks with his sister, there, he in his eyes he doesn't, can do no wrong, but he's so invested from the time that they, come together kind of as, as friends or as this couple, so supportive and so pushing of, Mia, of her career, of what she can accomplish. And then, yeah, presumably over the last 5 years, he's gotten to see, her career flourish while he's been, flourishing in his own way, but definitely, not in the limelight to any extent that she would have been in, right? Because, assumably the way that she's reacting to going into that bar, it's come as a surprise to her that Sebastian has made it to live up to his dreams. So I really like kind of like that nuance between the two characters of how he was very impressive upon her career and things like that. So yeah, I mean it's kind of brilliant in the way that it's made. Obviously 16 Academy Awards, you just have to have all things firing on all cylinders to pull any of this off. Everything looks so kind of kind of unique and also very precise in the way that it's telling. There's like a one particular shot when I think when they're at the first party or the second party, and kind of a little song and dance number breaks out, and one gentleman like in a tuxedo jumps into the pool, and the camera pans down and follows him into the pool and back out of the pool to go into
Yeah.
another dancer and stuff like that. And it just had to have been just this I can't even imagine like the pre-production like planning meetings for how you're going to like pull some of this stuff off, and how you're creating it and how you're making it work. The opening dance number, as you mentioned, Michaela, they're closing off part of the highway, but all the other highways are still busy zipping around alongside of it. It looks spectacular. Apparently, there is I think the only like computer generated shot in it is of
Mm-hmm.
there's some of it in the Hollywood Hills, and presumably that was just done for like lighting purposes for the time they needed to kind of capture that. But yeah, all of these long shots and all of the
Yeah.
dances and stuff like that, yeah, it's just like a true dedication and like a true like vision come to fruition.
Right. And when you think about the director, like apparently he had shopped this around for a really long time and people weren't taking it until he got the opportunity to do Whiplash, right? Which
Hmm.
also had J.K. Simmons. It's amazing. Um, this this could have been a very different story if the timing of this hadn't worked the way that it did. Whiplash really, we if you've not seen that, you should, but you should thank it because that success of that film gave us La La Land for sure. As that happens, right? And so much in the
Hmm.
movie business where you gotta prove yourself before you can do something bigger, something grander. And this was pretty big and grand. I feel like prior to this, I think it was Into the Woods was the previous musical, and that didn't do super well in the box office, right? People
Hmm.
liked it, but um it didn't shake the world the way that this did. And I'm not saying it's perfect. I mean, you heard me that I mean my one piece of criticism for this whole thing, I wish they had mixed the sound for the first two songs a little bit differently so we could hear the
Hmm.
the voices a little bit more. But they seem to have fixed that by the end because the last couple of songs of them together or of him singing City of Stars, I mean, that won best song. I mean, it's this film definitely deserved all the accolades that it did. It deserves your time if you've not seen it. it's such a beautiful testament to living a dream and chasing a dream at the expense um, of your love, right, for a human, and or the expense of the pleasure of their company, because again, they both still loved each other. And that's one thing that as you're an adult and you get older in life, you realize that, the love, if it really is love, it doesn't go anywhere. It just finds a different place, right, to be. And I really, really love that about this film, because it combines all of these things, right? When you're young and you're energetic and you've got these dreams and you've got this love and you're in this relationship, and what do you do? And do you grow up? Like, Sebastian's character, he really struggled with that this whole time. He was like,
Hmm.
my sister thinks I should grow up, and I should grow up, man. I mean, I should make some money. I should do some things. And she's like, no, don't do that just to be with me. Because notice at the end, it's if he gives up his dream, right? She goes and gets everything that she wants, but they're not going to visit his club. They're
Hmm.
going to visit a
Right.
jazz club. And
Yeah.
so he's doing something, but he's not doing the exact thing that he had always wanted to do. And so those things come at a price.
Hmm.
And I just, yeah, it shook me. I mean, I've only seen this film twice. But I love some of the details and some of the smaller elements, or quote unquote smaller elements of filmmaking here, where you've got these incredible shots, the way in which they partner, and the writing is beautiful, and obviously the way that they show the instrumentation is great as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is La La Land. So let us know at home if you have watched this, if you were hoodwinked by that Oscar award that was taken away, or what you think about Hollywood musicals, classic or otherwise. So let us know. You can do that. You can reach out to us on our social medias. It's at Drink the Movies on Instagram and X and Threads and Blue Sky, and Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to get pictures of our cocktail of the recipe. You can do that on our website. It's www.drinkthemovies.com. And we want to see pictures of the cocktails you made up for La La Land, or if you have any other favorites, LA Hollywood cocktails, let us know that, because we're excited to head out there later this year and try some spots out. So if you have any recommendations, send those our way as well. Want to send a shout out to all of our patrons over on Patreon. We've got a lot of fun stuff going out over there. We've got our Mad Max bonus episode. We've got Twister coming later this month. We've got our Hangouts. We've got a whole back catalog of extra episodes. You get early access to all the episodes, all that stuff. You can do that on our Patreon. It's patreon.com/drink the movies. And you can support the podcast with some sweet merch. I wore my hoodie in on my flight out to Las Vegas, not on my flight back. It was too hot. So you can do that on our merch shop. It's drinkthemovies.square.site. All that stuff is linked in the bio. Michaela, we do two of these a week. We do our lobby bar. We do our deep dive on a movie with a cocktail. Where do people need to make sure they're signed up so they can get those episode drops and all that stuff?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, anywhere where Spotify podcasts are supported and distributed. You have a rectangle. It's called a phone. If you're whatever you're listening to us on, I guarantee there's a button that you can press to subscribe. We do 2 drops a week, at least 2 drops a week. Sometimes we get a little crazy and we do more, but usually it's 2 drops a week. We love being able to do this. The only reason we can do it is because of listeners like you. So if you're liking what you're hearing, press the subscribe button. If you're really liking what you're hearing and you want more people to get in on the Drink the Movies train, you can leave us reviews on social media. There's like a review button. Every single platform has it. Doing that really helps us spread the love, get more Drink the Movies stuff out there. This is the best job in the entire world. It is so fun, and we only get to do it because of your listenership. So thank you so much for all of the support that you give us.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for joining us here on La La Land. I think that's going to wrap it up for us. Michaela has to go dry her eyes, but I think it's going to help with by having another La La Land cocktail. So let's do that, and we'll talk to everyone next time on Drink
the
the
Movies.
Movies.
Chicken on a Stick. No one will go to a jazz club with the name Chicken on the Stick. So change the name. Well, no one likes jazz, not even you. I do like jazz now because of you.
Apparently, according to Wikipedia, Miles Teller and Emma Watson were supposed to be the leading role stars.
True story.
But Emma Watson was already going to do Beauty and the Beast. So we We might not have ever talked about La La Land. I
Might
don't
not
know.
have ever talked about La La Land. I don't know. No shame on them, but man, the chemistry here is amazing.
It is important.